My name is John Ojeda, and I did the sound design and mixing for Mermaids. The way I sort of became a sound designer was, it was a pretty organic experience. I've been in music all of my life. I played sax and piano, so I have a strong music background. Many sound designers, or anyone that's a sound aficionado, when you go to the theater, the very large cinematic sound really excites you. When I went to college, my first degree was in theater arts, performance, and I was a DJ for many years, so the performance side of it and getting a crowd reaction was always important to me. And I knew that in composition, for example, I really liked the placement of sounds and the elements that would sort of be those special cues that might get you really excited about a piece. So I found myself that the editing of music was really exciting. Because this is animated and because these are, otherworldly environments, for example, taking Earth out of it, it was, it's really up to me and my interpretation of what an environment sounds like. So I try to put myself back to when I was a child and I'd be watching movies and things that sort of drew me into an environment. The most challenging part of working on Mermaids was designing the full palette across the entire film. I decided to break it up into smaller chunks, and since I am the main sound designer, it was easy to use my own sound palette and sort of divide it and go back and check to make sure that it didn't sound like two different people were designing for the film. I would say some of the larger scenes, such as the fortress.
Julian was afraid walking around the huge Martian fortress, but he continued on until a bright light shone down upon him.
Were pretty complex, and I actually found Foley and footsteps and body movements and things in different environments were pretty fun to work through. Much of the sound design was sourced, as well as I did some, in my own studio recording for things like body movements and movements of the arms on clothing. I had to sort of mimic whatever the character was wearing. So if they were wearing sneakers, it wouldn't do me any good to use dress shoes for footsteps. If they were walking on sand.
Julian, what's happened?
It was important to get the right, material to be able to record and make it sound, translate in film. Some of the effects for the characters really, all of the effects depended on the environment they were in. And really, because it's animated and it's the environments aren't necessarily, they're not earthly in all cases. It was fun to sort of come up with your own, what was in my own head. Glaucus, the lead Martian, he has a mask, so we had to figure out how to make him sound like he was behind an apparatus, while not having him sound cavernous, for example, or too muffled to where you couldn't understand his voice.
I know what you want, Gilbert, and the answer is still no.
For the Mermaids in specific, they have sort of different locales that they come from. So when Julian, when they call to him on Earth,
we need your help.
They are in Mars, and they are not only on Mars, they are also calling from the ocean. So there's this, and they're calling from a portal, so there's this entire environment that they're sort of going through. So we added effects to sort of mimic travel and time and distance. And then when Julian is transported to Mars and he's on the surface, they're still underwater, but now he's on Mars. So there's a more local relationship between the three mermaids and Julian. And then then there's a period where Julian actually enters the water on Mars, and now they're all communicating with their mind in one common area. So then we had sort of a unified voice that was underwater, or a unified effect that sort of worked for all of them.
Goodness no, we're mermaids, Julian.
So it was really fun because there's so many shifts back and forth between land and water and earth and back and forth. It was fun to get those shifts. There were some special considerations to shifting design for live action to animation. Again, when we're shifting to live action, this is real, so it needs to be believable and feel like you're actually in a real environment. You're sitting, for example, when there are the narration pieces that shift to the bedroom. You have to feel like you're actually in a room that might be close to the water but isn't on the water, but doesn't feel like a fake world. So, getting the room tone right.
Mermaids, huh?
Oh, Mom, you totally scared me.
Sorry, honey. Just checking to see how my little girl is doing today.
And getting the room tone, if we didn't have it for particular live action vocal shots, so if the on location audio wasn't available, I had to sort of create my own environment. With respect to, for example, the closing scene, when Julian is now an adult and he's visiting with the mermaid and she's on the coast.
I'm not sure that she, or anybody else for that matter, is ready.
There was no location sound. We didn't have any ocean waves or anything core to the actual day of the shoot. The dialogue was all ADR. There were no scratch track vocals from the live shots. So as far as a core ambience is concerned, there's certain things that you'll find familiar. Seagulls, or when it's a calm day, there's certain lappings of waves. Are they hitting rocks? Or is it hitting wood? Is there wind? Is it a quiet day? Is Julian's hair blowing? So you really have to take all of that into consideration, and we did in the end. There is a light breeze, so occasionally you might hear a little bit of wind just during moments when his hair might flick. There are also Foley elements that we had to replace for his footsteps and when he actually sits down the rock, which was really fun because you have to take a bare foot and place it on a rock in a location that originally didn't exist. So that was really, really exciting.
We will. We definitely will. We're just trying to break it to her slowly.
I got a lot of enjoyment out of it. When you can get those things just right and you get the timing of the footsteps just right, and you actually, as a sound designer, I'm tricking myself with the actual, I'm seeing it and I'm saying, he actually is walking on rocks. No, he's not. Yes, he is. So, that's when you really know that it worked. It also happened in the opening scene. He starts on wood steps, he's barefoot, he shifts into sand, and then he shifts from sand onto sort of pebbles, and he's getting closer to water where you're hearing lapping waves. From up on a hill, walking down steps all the way down, really takes a lot of transitioning to make it believable.